Hello everyone and welcome back to the next mathematics tutorial. Last time we looked at factorising quadratic equations. This time we're going to look at something called the quadratic formula, which essentially lets you find the solution of the solutions of the quadratic equation without having to do any of this factorising business or anything. Now, before I tell you what the formula is, I need to tell you about the general form of a quadratic equation, which we have over here. So the general form of a quadratic equation. Now, it's of the form ax squared plus bx plus c is equal to 0. Now, don't be frightened by these a, b, x, and c. So x is what we're trying to find, to solve for, and a, b, and c are just numbers that will be different depending on the equation. So I have some examples down here. So example number 1 is x squared plus x plus 1 is equal to 0. So here you can see that a is 1, so the number in front of the x squared is 1, and the number in front of the x, the b, that's 1, and c is also 1. So in this case they're all the same. And just remember, don't be frightened when you just see the x by itself. It just means there's a 1 in front. We just don't bother writing a 1 like that. We just leave it out. So in this case a, b, and c are all 1. Now for number 2, we have 2x squared plus 3x plus 7 is equal to 0. So in this case a is 2, b is 3, so b is 3, and c is 7. So don't be frightened by the a, b, and c. They're just different numbers, and they may be different depending on which equation. You can change them around however you like. So just remember this general form, and that will help you with the formula. So now we move on to the actual formula itself. Well, the formula is over here, where it says quadratic formula in green. And the formula is x is equal to minus b, so you have to take the number here, the b, and put a minus in front, so it's minus b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac, and then you divide everything by 2a. Okay, now this plus or minus, that might seem a bit scary. It just means that there will be two solutions, so there'll be two solutions to this quadratic equation. Remember last time we saw there would be two solutions. And the plus or minus just means that one solution is for the plus and the other solution is for the minus. So for your first solution you do minus b plus this square root divided by 2a, and then for the second solution you do minus b minus the square root and then divided by 2a. So let's look at an example, shall we, to make it clear. Let's look at this example down here. Let's do a little star to mark it. Oh god, that's a horribly drawn star. Don't draw my stars like that. That's terrible. Right. X squared plus 3x plus 2 is equal to 0. I'll give you a moment to think about it. You might want to try and solve this by yourself. Remember, there'll be two solutions, and just plug everything into this formula here, and that'll give you your answer. So I'll give you a moment, and pause the video, and then I'll go through it. Okay, hopefully you've had a try. Now let's go through the example. So what we need to do is we need to do x is equal to, I mean this bit is implied when you write this, but if you want to make it clear you write x is equal to minus b. What's b? Well, b is here, so b is 3, so we're going to want minus 3, plus or minus the square root of b squared. What's b squared? Well, b is 3, and 3 squared is 9, so we put a 9 in here. Then we've got minus 4ac. So that's 4 times a times c. So what's a? Well, a is just 1, right? A is just 1. So 4 times 1 is just going to be 4, so that we don't have to worry about that. And c over here, c is 2. So we have 4 times 1 times 2 which is just 4 times 2, and that's just 8. Okay, so we have an 8 in here. I think we can manage to do 9 minus 8 just. And then 2 times a is just 2 times 1 here, so it's just 2. Okay, so we just got a 2 in there. Now what does that give us? Well, that gives us x is minus 3 plus or minus. So we're going to have our plus or minus. Don't forget, you always have plus or minus. Don't forget plus or minus. Otherwise you'll only end up with one solution when there might be 2. And what do we get here? Well, we've got 9 minus 8, which is just 1. And the square root of 1 is just 1. So we've got minus 3 plus or minus 1 divided by 2. And then that is going to give us x is equal to, well, we have to do minus 3 plus 1 first. So that would give us minus 2. And then minus 2 divided by 2 is just 1. So we get minus 1 for our first one, because we have minus 2 divided by 2. So it's 2 divided by 2, which is 1, but you get the minus, because you've got the minus 2, so it's minus 1. And then you've got minus 3 minus 1, which is minus 4. And then you're dividing that by 2. So minus 4 divided by 2 is minus 2. You get minus 2. And if that's a little bit confusing, let me just write out in brackets here. You get, so one case you get minus 2 over 2. Okay, and the other one you'd get the minus 4 over 2, just in case you have trouble visualizing that. So obviously, clearly you can see here, you've got the 2 divided by the 2, which gives you the 1, but you've got the minus, so it'd be minus 1, and the same here with the minus 4 over the 2, you get minus 2. So x is equal to minus 1 or minus 2 are our two solutions. Remember, there's two solutions. So make sure you write both out, and make sure you always write all this working out. You can skip some of the calculations if you're confident, but my advice is to write it all out, even write out this formula if you want to, just to make sure you gain all the marks in the exam or whatever. So that's how you use the quadratic formula. It kind of seems a bit like magic, doesn't it? It's you know, I've just given you this formula, this minus b plus or minus square root blah blah blah, and I've told you it gives you the solutions, and it seems kind of like magic. I mean, why does it work? And the answer is, well, it's a bit complicated to show you why it works. So for now, just trust that it will give you the solutions. But in a later video, I will go through a proof to actually show you why this works, and that it does in fact give you the solutions. But you can just trust me for now. One final thing. For now, don't worry about it too much. But the final thing is that when you have this square root here, you might end up with this b squared minus 4ac being negative. Now think about that. We might let's go over here just for a moment. What if we had, say, b being 1, a being 1, and c being 1? Then we'd have 1 squared minus 4 times 1 times 1, so that would just be 1 minus 4. So you'd end up with the square root of 1 minus 4, which is minus 3. You'd end up with a square root of minus 3, which is nonsense, essentially, because you can't do the square root of a negative number. Because if you think about it, the square root is a number that when you multiply it by itself, you get back to the original number. And there's no way you could get to minus 3 by doing that, right? Because if you take a positive number and you multiply it by itself, the answer's still positive. And if you do a negative number and you times it by itself, then that's negative times negative, which is still positive. So you end up with a bit of a problem. So there is a way of getting around that, but don't worry about it. And if you're given something where it is negative, just say it can't be done because the square root is negative. But I'll go through some more examples in my next video. So my next video will be on some examples of applying the quadratic formula and solving these quadratic equations. So I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope it was helpful. Don't forget to leave a like, subscribe, and comment. So subscribe for more videos, and give a comment to say if you found it helpful and what I could do to improve. If you want to see more examples, if you're confused about this square root or the plus or minus or anything, just let me know in the comment section. All right, take care, and keep practicing the equations. Keep practicing. Just memorize this formula until you've got it completely memorized. All right, take care.